Alright, BC Timbers, Mr. Anton. Now it's time
What's up,
to
guys?
unload yesterday's score from the island. So we're going to pull it all off the truck and take it over to the mill here and start figuring out how we want to cut this stuff and prepare it to put up in my house, right?
Yep.
The plan.
Turn
So,
this stuff into art.
We got to figure out, this is always the fun part, right?
Yeah.
Figure out how to get it off the truck without
Always.
destroying equipment.
This time we stacked it nice with the sticker, so we should be able to pull it off real nice.
Last one, for sure. We got ourselves a special celebrity guest appearance today.
What's up, everybody?
Redbeard, dude, what brings you out of the office, man?
Lumber, you know? Love me some good wood.
Oh, you do love some good wood, that's true.
Who doesn't?
That's one
right?
thing that you told me when we first met was, hi, I'm Redbeard, I love good wood.
Yeah, and he said, you know, me too.
So, let me show you step one of branding. Redbeard showed up looking like he's going to a
Quinceañera?
or I was gonna say bar mitzvah, either
Yeah.
way. Gotta plug the DP.
Yeah.
So, not about to shoot a vlog.
Well, I'm not gonna,
That is a nice shirt. You
I'm
don't
not
want
gonna
to
get my easy breezy
What is
dirty.
that made of?
Like linen, really thin linen.
That's nice. It looks like it breathes nice.
It is. It's like the breeziest.
Ooh, I think we might just want to go with this look. Look at you. All natural.
Oh, he's got one up on you, dude. What? Have you met Jam Pack Josh?
Jam Pack Josh?
Jam Pack Josh.
Jam Pack Josh.
Oh yeah.
This is Redbeard, dude.
Regular Josh?
Yep.
Regular Josh. Redbeard Josh.
Dude, it's awesome.
He's a real authentic hippie.
No,
You ever met one before?
no, dude.
Really?
Well, no, we saw one at Animal Violence.
I saw
You saw one in the wild?
No, we saw one in the trailer. Remember, dude, the one that was like in
Oh,
the
yeah,
park?
yeah, yeah,
Dude, I was like, oh man, I gotta hang out with that person.
Yeah, no, any hippie questions you have,
Yeah.
just direct them to this guy.
In-house hippie right here.
It's awesome.
So basically, here's how this works. We bring the wood back from the island, unload it here at Anton's yard, and then Anton has this wood miser, we call it a mill. It's basically a giant saw. So we're gonna put the wood down on there, figure out what areas we wanna cut. What we're trying to do is basically pick off the really nice, like weathered surfaces, right? Because that's what looks really good. You gotta understand, we're not really using this wood right now to be structural. Like these big pieces right behind me, look at this. This kind of stuff, that's gonna hold up a roof. That's gonna be like built into the construction of the house. We've already done this part of my house, so now we're just trying to get the aesthetics. We're basically skinning these things. So as we pull off that, you know, an old weathered look, then we can hang those from the ceiling and they become what's called faux beams. So that's what we're doing right now. Although we have used some of this stuff structurally in my house, which we were super concerned about at first, because when you first feel this stuff, it feels like might be rotten, might be old, might be falling apart. Dude, exact opposite. This stuff's hard as a rock. Right?
Hard as a rock. It's petrified, dude. It is solid. It's good stuff.
Speaking of, aren't you going through a bunch of blades?
Yeah, bunch of them.
Just destroying them.
Because this is an old pile, dude.
As we start cutting through these pieces, you're finding these old like dowels and railroad spikes. Basically whatever they used to assemble this old trestle, that's still in the wood. Nobody went through and pulled that stuff out. When they pulled this thing apart, they basically just used a big tractor and just threw pieces everywhere. So that's what I love, this history right here. I mean, that's probably, what, 100-year-old spike?
Easy.
That's cool. Kind of looks like
Antiques.
I've got a whole bucket of that stuff, dude.
You hippies use these things for like this kind of stuff?
We gotta hollow that out, man.
Oh, then you can. Glad I knew exactly where I was going with that.
Yeah.
Can't smoke a solid pipe.
Yeah, you can't smoke
Hey
iron,
Garrett,
man.
we need some blades, man. We're gonna put a blade on this bad boy. One of the new ones in the box.
So right here, I'm sure you guys probably know this, but when you look at a piece of wood, all these rings right here represent a year of life for the tree. So each ring, as the tree grows, you can tell whether it was like a good year, like a lot of water, a lot of moisture, or if they were kind of lean years, the ring is a little bit tighter and smaller because it didn't grow as fast. So as you start to look at some of this old growth wood, that's what we call it, lots and lots and lots of rings, like anywhere between 100, 150. That means this tree was 150 years old before they cut it down 100 years ago. When you look at timber nowadays, the growth rings are like an inch thick because the trees grow so fast. They're harvested, they're farmed to grow that quickly, and they're cut down when they're 20, 30 years old, as opposed to 150, 200 years old. So that's what makes this stuff so cool, because it's so dense. As these rings are so tight, that means this wood is hard as a rock. So the wood miser, this sawmill, got diesel engine, and this thing slides up and down the wood rather than feeding the wood through it. See this big old saw, this blade right here? It's like a giant bandsaw. The problem is, like we said before, this wood is full of salt, sand, rocks, minerals, and metal spikes. So if you start cutting through it, it is just destroying these blades. So didn't you get a special blade for it?
Yep, we did. And they've got a special tip. But the teeth are spread apart to get a little more coarse cut, a little more rough cut in this wood.
Yeah, the closer the teeth, the finer the cut, which we don't want a fine cut. We want that rustic, gnarly. Like this is how the old saws used to be back in the 1800s when they'd cut through the stuff, and that's how you get that rough sawn look. Loaded up, ready to go, fly over, and they're stuck.
Dude, I had pedals in the metal, dude, and once I hit that,
Just freaking.
Should have called me, dude. I couldn't. I was up from like 1 to 4:30.
Really?
Just couldn't sleep.
Dude, it was fun.
Yeah.
It's got to the point where people are starting to get delirious. Just picking up the front of the 5-ton, just like slamming it around with the track hoe.
It's been a while since
Smashing
we've been
the
Delirious.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Get
dude, you
stuck.
guys used to do that a lot more.
Oh, dude, that was like
Yeah.
regular part of the job.
Honestly,
Like
that's like a
every
regular
other-
Tuesday night for us.
Every other outing. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, we kind of took a break from that for the most part, but it's still
It was refreshing to go out and do it.
Yeah.
The repo.
All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We got the island wood that we picked up yesterday. We're gonna build a couple different things. We're gonna skin some pieces that we're gonna use as basically kind of like faux veneers in our house for like some of the ceiling ridge beams and stuff. And then also, since Redbeard decided to join us, we're gonna start cutting some of the initial pieces for a poker table for my friend.
Do some poker.
Yeah, did you say do some poker?
Yeah, man, I just
We're gonna
excited.
make do some-
I just excited. Poker.
Coming up there.
Poker table. Let's make it.
It's just this is the stuff that someone else will try to buy. It'd be like a $3,000.
So all these dogs, dude. Sit up against the dog.
Let's slide that against the. Go down a little bit with it so we can run the blade through. Where are we running the blade through? Across the top?
Probably right here. First cut.
So here's the deal. This piece right here is probably one of the lower grade pieces that we'll find out on the island. Why I say that is because right under here, you see it's seen some moisture and some wear and tear. And so when we first started picking this wood off the beach, we thought it was all gonna be just like garbage like this falling apart. But it turns out once you cut it, this is just the surface. You get in there and it's still hard as a rock. So even though this is probably one of the worst pieces, it's still a great piece because to be able to get this texture, like this face, like you just can't recreate that look. It doesn't matter how hard you try. A lot of people try. It's just impossible to recreate 100 years of history, right? Like,
Right.
get damn close, but that's hard to
All this
mimic.
character is impossible to recreate.
All right, so we going? Skin the top?
You want to drive it?
Yeah, sure.
We do the honors. Dude, you know that's fun, dude.
That is actually pretty fun. That's like
Look at that.
therapeutic. See, that's the crazy part. Like this stuff looks rotten on the outside, but it's just that stuff. You get in there and this is still solid.
So this piece we're cutting here is going to be the rafters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
9x4.
that's what we're doing right now.
So basically, that's a truss. Trusses are typically the part that it goes on the walls and holds the roof. This is going to be a faux truss. So
Yeah.
we've already got the house has been framed. So this is going to just give it that timber frame look from the outside.
Yeah. This is purely.
Purely. Solely.
This is solely, purely cosmetic.
So we're going 9x4 on this piece? Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, so now that we've done the cutting outside on the mill, bring the wood inside, and this is where the texturing process happens. This is where basically we make sure we get that finish, that look that we want, and then we're gonna start cutting the joints, drilling the holes, basically start putting the puzzle together, and then once it's all together, go over it once more with like a final texture, and these things are ready to ship out. So easier said than done. This process is pretty gnarly.
Put it together.
Unclaimed layaways?
He'll want to show it together. Some of these big cracks. You want to show that? Do we have the little yellow torch too? We need to get that stuff out ASAP. Josh, I got torches.
So check this out. Basically, the ends of the wood have a tendency to like split apart over time, but it doesn't mean that it's not a good piece of wood. Since it's not structural, remember I told you this is going to be just purely aesthetic. What we can do is like basically screw this back together. So drill the hole, and we take these big screws wherever they're at. So, got a couple different types of big wood screws. That's gonna go down through this hole, and it'll clamp this whole piece together, and then it'll be good as new, and it won't fall apart. Nice.
DeWalt, sponsor me.
That easy, just like that.
Where's the chain,
That's how
Josh?
you get brand deals. Now we're giving the wood a facelift, basically. So since we cut these edges, we don't want like a really, really clean edge. So that's what Alan's doing. He's basically taking his hatchet. This is how they used to cut timber back 100 years ago. They didn't have the sawmills. They literally, somebody would take a tree and they would go out and just pop, 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 patch it down. And that's what you call hand hewn.
And they'd use an adze, that big looking, scoop looking hatchet. We use this because it's a little more lightweight and a little easier to
You're not trying
be
to
delicate.
material.
People always.
You know what I found what's really good? The grinder. Just kind of,
Oh yeah, we do wire wheel grinder too.
I take a big, like a stone grinder, just it'll give you that same look on the edges.
This is kind of a trade secret.
Oh, you're right.
So all these accent marks that we made with the chains and the axe, you don't really see them, okay? So we take a little torch and we'll go into those areas and burn those areas. See how it lifts the grain? And it really defines that area. See that? And then after we go through that, then we take the big torch. Don't worry about getting too much too, dude. We can just knock it off.
Burn it.
That's awesome.
All right, mortise and tenon time. Okay, so check this out. This is one of the coolest parts of timber framing. So a true timber framer basically locks the wood together like a puzzle, right?
Yep.
You don't just take and you put screws in it. Like that's cheating. You got to be able to basically cut these pockets and what do you call that? Which is the mortise and which is the tenon?
So the mortise is the square hole. Tenon
that's the
is the
female.
yep
Tenon
square
is the
hole.
male.
And
Basically,
the tenon is the male.
You're putting this right here is an
Was a
old
tenon.
mortise and tenon joint. So this was an old piece of timber that basically interlocked with this. Since these were reclaimed, that got cut out, which I'm really grateful when people reclaim timbers. In fact, let me give you a little plug here. If you have any timbers that you want to get rid of, any reclaimed wood, please hit me up. We love this stuff. Like
Yep.
literally anything. Even if you think it's garbage, let us know. But when you tear things down, if you have an old barn or an old structure, be gentle with it, right? You see so many people go in with a track hoe and just tear the building down and destroy these perfectly good timbers. Since somebody was able to take this thing down with a little bit of caution, they cut this out. We're able to reuse this piece for another 100 years.
You guys would be amazed what we can actually use. So, like Dave says, save it.
Yeah.
Save it.
And just tell us about it. We'll come get it. I don't care if you're anywhere in the country. I'll send a truck and pick it up. That's no joke. All right, where are we at?
All right, so
Let's talk about what we were doing here was the rafters. This right here is what, the center?
The
Or
queen. It's the queen.
queen post. So we could talk about, or
Just do it. Just talk.
okay. So on this particular truss, we've got 3 posts. The king being the center, and the queens, or some people call that the hammer, right?
Oh,
Hammer post, depending on the style of truss. This is kind of unique. This is our style. We've kind of tweaked some things to make it badass.
That's what makes your stuff like stand apart, is because you've taken all these different design elements from different timber framing over the years, and you've kind of combined them into like this smorgasbord of your look. I've never seen anybody do it like this. Have you?
No.
Like, I've seen a lot of different timber work. Nobody's done it this way. You guys have done a good job creating your own look in an industry that's a couple thousand years old.
We've actually had traditional timber framers come and work with us
Oh, they hate it.
and kind of get frustrated with us because we don't do things traditionally. Sorry guys, I love it, respect it, but I kind of got my own way of wanting to do stuff. So
And
we
you
think
got
outside the box.
Clients that want it your way too, like this guy right here. I did not want traditional timber framing at all. In fact, I probably wouldn't have done the house if I had to do just traditional stuff. No knocking and like you said, no offense. I don't like that look as much as I like this look. I want it to look old, a little medieval, a little, you know, a lot of rustic. So, where were you at? Cutting,
We're going to do mortises on this one.
Mortise is the hole?
For the hole. For the rafters.
Talk about layout. So layout is a key part of this process, and we use the square that he's got is a framing square, an L, or this particular square is called a timber framing square. And this bad boy runs, it's pretty expensive, but it's sweet because it lines us up for our different mortises and tenons. It got numbers on the inside.
Josh,
so
run, dude. Oh.
Does he know where he's running?
Dude, should never remove that slow again. You hear me? Yep. Thank you.
this particular style, Garrett's doing center line, right? And then you
Yeah, this is all scribe rule.
Scribe rule.
So everything's based off plumb and level. We have a feather mark, which is marked on the opposite side. And I level the timber based on that face, the face that you see. As you can see, the center line is way off to the right. This is the side you don't see. So basically I made a surface going through the timber.
Because you're looking for a plumb face.
Plumb face.
Of the
yeah,
truss, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So these old timbers, they kind of twist over time. So, and we're not getting rid of any of the faces. We're not planing, milling. So I'm scribing everything together. It's a little intuitive.
Yeah.
But
You kind of just got to do it by feel, right?
it's eye. It's not so much measurement.
Right.
I mean, there's obviously
Which is
measurements in
totally
it.
counterintuitive to what all construction is.
Yeah.
Because typically when you're framing a house, everything needs to be square this, square that. Everything's got to
Square,
match
level,
up.
plumb. Yep.
But now you're dealing with basically something that's twisted like a spiral.
Exactly.
And you got to somehow plumb it up, which is tricky.
So basically, I mean, if you could imagine, I'm making a perfect cross inside the timber, and that's how I base all my cuts.
Right.
Based off everything off the center line.
Control
my
X.
cross. So
Let's do it.
just quickly lay this out.
It's impressive stuff.
we got that chain mortise already. We want to do a cut first. Chain mortise.
Yeah, I need to cut first.
We grab me that speaker. And then Alec, grab a couple shots of me just holding it.
This saw does not mess around.
It doesn't look like
Saw, dude. Look at that, man. That's the old mortise. Look at that grain, man. How tight. Old growth. Oak. That red oak?
It's white.
White oak.
Yeah.
The tips. You got some? Okay. That's freaking.
Just the tip is square.
All right. So
Yeah.
based
Well,
off the
that's what
railroad.
we've done. Go ahead. Talk about it.
So here's one of my favorite parts of old timber framing is, so they take the mortise and tenon joints, and like I said, back in the day, they didn't have the luxury of using these big, grabber screws and these timber framing screws. They had to use wood to secure wood together. So see these old holes right here? That's a 200-year-old hole. Basically, that dowel would go in there and it would interlock these pieces together. You can see right here, here's an old dowel that came through this piece. Super, super, like high tolerances, everything in there fits snug together. And the old timber framer, look, you can almost knock that dowel out of there. Just like, that's whole history right there. And it's the quality right way to do it. And one thing that we've done with our timbers that these guys have just killed it with is we use square dowels. So basically, it's a round dowel. We go square head with it. It's more of like a, I don't want to say it's cheating. It's just a way to not have to use a square dowel because none of these pieces are actually doweled together nowadays, right? The dowels are mostly for looks. We use the timber framing screws, use big steel rods to hold everything together because when you're putting a piece like this, like hanging it from your roof, you can't run the risk of an old dowel breaking. So the steel keeps it together. This stuff just makes sure that it stays true to like the time and tradition of timber framing. So that's one of my favorite parts right there. Like it's whatever works for you and whatever works for your client.
Where he came from and working with the French, right?
Yeah.
Or the Japanese, dude. They're pretty particular about their stuff.
And Canadians.
I don't like rules, dude.
Yeah, it's crazy how defensive they get. Each one of their own style, right? Like you do it differently from the way they do it, and all of a sudden you're like a heathen.
Now we're
Yeah,
picking
if my
fights with
professor finds out, I'm in trouble. I might get
You went
a
to
phone
school
call.
for this?
Yeah, I have a degree.
What? And they teach you a certain style.
It's based on the professor,
Okay.
and then we go to different timber frame locations, shops.
They're all
during
looking
our
at Garrett and
internship.
saying, "You went to work where? BC Timbers?" Gosh. No. We love it, dude.
It's a college. It's in South Carolina. It's American College of Building Arts. So I have a degree in architectural timber framing.
Wow, that's pretty specific.
Yeah.
Pretty
That's a
awesome.
badass degree.
So
That is a
I
badass
think it
degree.
comes with like a chest hair as a degree, I think.
If you don't have any, they
Yeah, if you don't have a beard that looks
Yeah,
like that,
they'll
right?
grow it on.
most people that graduate with my degree have beards. Yeah.
I can see your chest hair coming out from your shirt. That's how much you know about timber framing. Is
He's
that kind of like
he's
the
a
big
naturalist.
age? That's how you know, like, job interview, first thing you do is like, tell them to wear a V-neck.
Yeah. Josh. Right, Josh?
No, I don't think I can grow any.
See,
What?
this right here, we don't usually do this. This is pretty offensive.
What?
We've got clients that come over and they go vomit in the toilet because Josh is showing so much of his bosom.
It's because I can't show. I don't have any chest hair, so I have to use the heart as replacement.
And people
It looks
ask,
cooler.
what does the heart mean? Josh, why do you have a heart in the center of your chest?
I got a big heart.
There you go.
Oh
He's
yeah.
got a big heart, guys.
Yeah.
So next up,
Next
up we go
We got no nails. We got no nails in here.
mortise and tenon time. So we're gonna basically cut the mortise hole, which is that big square rectangular hole that the other piece of wood is gonna slide into.
Let's
I'm telling
pull
you,
that.
This is like the stuff that nobody does anymore.
So
Well,
these
like-
chains, dude, these chains run about $400 to $600 on these chain mortisers, these Makita chain mortisers. They are actually a little cheaper version of a higher brand, but they do a good job of what we need. So
I literally looked at like every tool that I had. I'm like, there's no way I can do that. I don't know how to do that. Well, turns out you have to have a special tool. What do you call that? The mortising?
mortiser. Yep. Chainsaw
Basically
mortiser.
like a chainsaw attachment that cuts your hole for you.
And then one more time.
All right, so that's basically the process to get the truss assembly that we're building just about ready for assembly. They obviously got to finish doing all of the mortise and tenon, prep everything, and then time to assemble it. Once it's assembled, you guys will do kind of like a last once over finish, make sure everything's clean,
Yep.
get it just beautiful, and then on the trailer to my house, and we're gonna install it. I'm pumped for this piece because these are like 200-year-old hand-hewn beams from an Amish barn, and it's like this old white oak. White oak is really hard wood, right?
Yeah,
That's why it's so
really
hard on the tools and equipment, but that's also why it lasts forever. So cool stuff. This is not island wood, but it actually plays really nice with the island wood, right?
Yep.
You
It
can
goes
put
hand in
different
hand.
species together. And
Perfect. Yep.
is that against the rules?
No, not against the rules.
Traditional rules say you don't have
Against
to.
traditional rules.
I feel like we break a lot of
But the
timber
cool
framing
thing
rules.
about that is that's where you get your color difference.
Yeah.
So on your particular house, we've got the posts that look a little darker than the other pieces.
That's what I love about this guy. Anton don't care. He got so many trolls, everybody online saying, do it this way, do it that way. He doesn't care. He just keeps doing it his way, their way. They've got their own style here. And obviously it's working because everybody loves your work, right?
Yeah.
You guys
a
are
lot of people.
busier this year than you've ever been.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Stay tuned for the install because it's gonna be sweet.
I always wrap up with